During a toast at a major merger celebration, my father-in-law laughed. Let's hope she learns to stay in her lane. I stayed silent, became the power behind every critical vote, and when the buyout came, I made sure he was fired first with a public statement reading, due to leadership incompetence. His retirement savings were cancelled under misconduct clauses, his kids refused to speak to him, and his family line was cut off from company trust benefits forever. I wasn't supposed to be in the room. Not in that room anyway. The ballroom at the Four Seasons in Jackson Hole had ceilings high enough to make you feel small on purpose. It was wall-to-wall power players, men in tailored suits, Rolexes flashing every time they raised their champagne glasses. Everyone was celebrating the official merger between Beringer Freight and Caraway Logistics. Years in the making. A deal worth hundreds of millions. I stood near the back, by the bar, invisible in a black dress that probably cost less than one of their tie pins. And then Leonard, my father-in-law, raised his glass. To growth, to grit, and to leadership, he boomed. His voice always had that bounce, like he thought everything he said was the funniest thing in the world. He paused, smiling right at me. And let's hope she learns to stay in her lane, huh? Laughter. Actual belly laughs from the guys around him. Even a few of the younger ones snorted. Someone clapped. I smiled, nodded. Like it didn't sting. Like I wasn't mentally noting the name of every single person who laughed. What they didn't know was that none of this would have happened without me. None of it. Let me explain. Todd, my husband at the time, was Leonard's youngest son. He worked in business development at Beringer Freight, but let's be honest, he was there because of his last name. Todd was sweet, good-looking, and perfectly okay being second string. We met at a shipping expo in Atlanta. I was a speaker. He was wandering around, clearly overwhelmed. He asked me to coffee. I figured why not. Fast forward 2 years and we're married. At first, Leonard acted polite. He smiled, asked where I went to school, Stanford, nodded like he didn't care. Then moved on to ask if I knew how to cook a pot roast. The man hadn't read a resume in 20 years. He didn't believe in women playing boss. He believed in men shaking hands and women bringing casseroles. Still, I played nice. For Todd. For the sake of the family. But I never forgot who I was. I had sold my second startup by age 32. I knew logistics inside and out, how to tear down a broken supply chain and rebuild it into a machine. Beringer Freight. It was running on duct tape and ego. Leonard didn't care. He liked doing things the way they've always been done. The company was bleeding money. Caraway started sniffing around. They were younger, leaner, and hungry for Beringer's client base. Leonard saw the merger as his big comeback. But they couldn't get the deal to work. Not without someone translating between old-school freight and modern supply chains. That's when I got the call from Caraway's strategy head. We need help, he said. Someone who speaks both languages. I said I'd look into it. Quietly. I started consulting under my maiden name through a shell LLC. Every meeting I joined was anonymous. Voice only. I reviewed contracts, crunched numbers, helped rewrite the entire infrastructure plan for post-merger integration. I didn't just help them get the deal done, I made it work. I also discovered something interesting. When the new company formed, it would have 11 board seats. 4 from Beringer, 4 from Caraway, and 3 independent seats, mutually agreed upon. I made sure those independents were mine. Through 2 investment firms I had stakes in, I arranged quiet purchases of small voting blocks. It took months of subtle maneuvering, but by the time the merger was public, I controlled all 3 independent seats. Nobody knew. Not even Todd. Which brings me back to Jackson Hole. The toast. The laughter. Leonard thought I was just someone's wife in a cocktail dress, there to look pretty and clap on cue. He had no clue he'd just mocked the only person in the room with veto power. I said nothing that night. Just smiled. Let the moment stew. Then came the first board meeting. San Francisco. Private boardroom. Leonard walked in confident, already acting like the chairman. He shook hands, made jokes, sat at the head of the table. Then the vote started. The motion. To elect the permanent chair. Leonard nominated himself. Caraway nominated someone else. Tie. Everyone looked to the 3 independents. That's when I walked in. His eyes narrowed. His lips moved, but no words came out. He looked at Todd, then back at me. I sat down and said clearly, The independence vote with Caraway. Leonard was out. But I didn't stop there. 3 days later, I pushed for a full audit of Beringer's side of the books. Not because I suspected fraud but because I knew Leonard had gotten sloppy. What we found: improper contracts, kickbacks to old golf buddies, unreported gifts, personal use of company jets. Enough to trigger the misconduct clause in his retirement deal. Everything was gone. No pension. No stock vesting. No golden parachute. Even worse, his family's trust payouts were tied to a clean leadership record. That clause was buried deep in an old document. Nobody had paid attention to it except me. Once the misconduct was official, all trust disbursements were cancelled. His other kids, especially his oldest son, who'd been living off that money, were furious. They cut him off completely. Suddenly Leonard was on his own. 68 years old.
No retirement.
No friends in the company. No family who'd answer his calls. The press release came out that Friday. One line got quoted everywhere. Due to leadership incompetence, Leonard Beringer has been removed from all roles. He called Todd that night screaming. Todd cried. Said I'd gone too far. I didn't answer. I just stared out the window watching the lights of downtown flicker. I wasn't done yet. Todd stopped sleeping in our bedroom after that. He didn't yell. He didn't throw things. He just stopped. One night I woke up at 3 a.m. and found him on the couch with his phone screen lighting up his face, tears running down his cheek. He didn't look up when I walked in. I loved my dad, he said. He was an asshole, but he was still my dad. I stood there for a second, then sat beside him. You don't think I know that? I said quietly. You think this was easy for me? He just shook his head. You didn't have to destroy him. I didn't respond, because in my head I already had. Todd moved into a condo downtown a week later. We agreed to share custody of the girls. I didn't fight him on anything. I was too focused on the next part of my plan. With Leonard gone, Caraway tried to move too fast. They wanted full control of operations, and they pushed out several mid-level managers from the Beringer side without even letting them pack up their desks. The problem was, those people still held legacy client relationships. The backlash came fast. Lost contracts, angry calls, and a minor PR nightmare after one ex-manager leaked internal documents to a trade journal. That's when the Caraway CEO called me in. Help us fix this, he said. Or we'll all go down together. I told him I wanted a real title, not just a ghost consultant. He said fine. 2 days later, I was named Chief Strategy Officer. First order of business: fire the cleanup crew. Second, reach out to the discarded Beringer managers and offer buyout bonuses for NDA-signed reentry deals. Most accepted, but one didn't. Her name was Morgan Ellis, former VP of Client Development at Beringer. She was sharp, respected, and had been one of the few women in the upper ranks who actually tried to help me back when Leonard rolled his eyes during meetings. When she got pushed out, she took half the Midwest accounts with her, quietly poaching them with promises of personal service. Now she was running a new company, Blue Arrow Freight, funded by an ex-Beringer investor with a serious grudge against me. They went live 6 months after the merger. The branding was sleek, but it was the pitch that stung. Real people. Real integrity.
No bordromegos.
Just freight that runs on time. It was a direct shot at me. Within 3 months, Blue Arrow had peeled off 7 legacy clients from our Midwest operations. The damage wasn't fatal, but it was bleeding us. Caraway's execs panicked. The CEO started blaming me. Said I was distracted. That I had personal history clouding judgment. I wasn't about to let that narrative stick. So I started digging. I knew Morgan was smart, but I also knew she had enemies, and I still had access to old files from the Beringer days. I found something in a storage backup from 3 years ago, a flagged ethics review from HR. Morgan had once sent personal gifts to a city procurement official during a competitive bid cycle. Leonard covered it up and made it disappear. Now I had it, and I had a choice. I could leak it to the press and ruin her, or I could call her. I did the latter. She picked up after 1 ring. Didn't expect to hear from you, she said flatly. I have something you need to see, I told her. Meet me at the old Beringer office, Thursday at noon.
No lawyers.
She showed up, dressed in black.
No smile.
No fear. I handed her the file. She flipped through it. Her eyes didn't change. Why show me this? She asked. Because I want peace, I said. And I want the Midwest clients back. She laughed once, short and cold. You want me to walk away from a growing company? From everything I've built? Because you dug up a dusty file? No, I said. I want you to sign a joint partnership agreement. You get full control of your new firm. We funnel regional overflow through you as a subcontractor. You keep growing. We stop bleeding. Everyone wins. She stared at me for a long time. You're good, she said finally. But this won't make people like you. I didn't respond. Because I didn't care. She agreed to the deal. The board praised the collaborative pivot, and my name went out in a company-wide memo as the architect of the strategic realignment. Leonard heard about it a week later. He tried to send Todd a message through one of his old friends. Said he wanted to talk things out. I told Todd not to respond, but Todd had already been talking to a lawyer. He wanted full custody of the kids. Claimed I was too aggressive to be a stable parent. That my work stress and personal vendettas made me unfit. That broke me in a way Leonard never could. Todd served me the papers on a Tuesday, middle of the day. A plain manila envelope handed off by a courier, who didn't even look me in the eye. The language inside was brutal, cold, claimed I was emotionally volatile, obsessed with control, and unable to prioritize the children's needs due to her fixation on power and revenge. It stung worse than anything Leonard ever said. I sat at my kitchen table, staring at the pages, hands shaking not with fear but fury. Todd, the man who used to tell me I was the smartest person in every room, the man who said he loved my fire, now using it as a weapon against me. He wasn't doing this alone. I knew it. Someone had gotten in his ear. Maybe Leonard. Maybe someone on the board who wanted me out of the picture entirely. That night I couldn't sleep. I sat in the dark and went through every document from the custody suit, line by line. Something felt off. The financials Todd submitted showed gaps. He declared new personal expenses that didn't line up. Private consulting fees and wire transfers to someone named Kyle Decker. I dug into it. Kyle was a former college buddy of Todd's. They'd both pledged the same frat. He worked for a regional consulting firm that had recently submitted a bid for a contract with Caraway's Midwest division. A contract I had turned down. Now I knew why. Kyle had funneled consulting kickbacks through Todd, then filed statements accusing me of conflict of interest to the board's ethics committee. They were setting me up, trying to push me out with a mix of legal pressure and manufactured scandal. It wasn't about the kids. It was about power. I went quiet for 3 weeks. Let them think I was folding. Let Todd's lawyer brag about momentum. Let Caraway's execs whisper behind my back. And during that time I gathered every receipt, every email, every late-night text Todd had ever sent from our shared iCloud that mentioned money or board decisions. Then I set up a meeting with the ethics committee myself. I walked in with a thick binder and laid it on the table. I'm not here to defend myself, I said. I'm here to show you the rot you missed. I walked them through every payment, every conflict, every lie Todd had told. By the end, 2 members were ghost white. One excused himself to vomit in the hallway. Todd was suspended from the company pending internal review. Kyle was fired 2 days later. The Midwest contract was voided and flagged for SEC scrutiny. But the damage was still spreading. Todd doubled down, went full scorched earth in the custody battle. Claimed I'd weaponized corporate resources to retaliate against him. That the whole investigation was just another power grab. I had to go to court, stand on a witness stand and defend not just my parenting but my sanity. They brought up the Leonard takedown. The press articles. The phrase leadership incompetence echoed in the courtroom like a death bell. The judge ordered a temporary split custody until a full review could be completed. And for the first time in years I cried in front of someone. Morgan Ellis. She found me sitting on the steps outside the courthouse, suit wrinkled, mascara smudged. You look human, she said. I laughed, bitter and tired. That's the problem. She sat next to me, silent for a long time. You still have people who'd back you, she said finally. Even after all this. Why? I asked. She shrugged. Because you're the only one who never lied about what you wanted. That stuck with me. The board vote was coming up. The CEO's term was ending. And after the ethics mess, his approval rating had plummeted. Morgan's voice echoed in my head. So I made my final move. I started making calls. I made my calls quietly. I didn't need to beg. I just reminded people of the facts. The CEO had let the company fall into scandal. He'd ignored red flags. He'd signed off on risky contracts, trusted the wrong people, and looked the other way when Todd and his friend Kyle were cutting side deals. And me, I'd built the merger, saved the Midwest accounts, formed the subcontracting deal that kept our logistics costs from bottoming out. And yes, I'd humiliated Leonard. But the company was still standing because of me. The board meeting was scheduled for a Monday. I walked in wearing black.
No smile. No handshake.
I sat at the long table while the others trickled in one by one. Todd wasn't there. He'd been officially removed from all company matters while the custody case finished playing out. Leonard had been erased from every record, every photo in the office lobby. It was like he never existed. The board chair started reading the agenda. The last item, CEO retention vote. They called for a vote. 5 hands went up to retain him, 6 to remove. Tiebreaker went to the independent seats, the same ones I still controlled. I didn't raise my hand. I stood. I vote to remove him, I said. Silence. No one spoke. The CEO stared at me, stunned. It's done, the board chair said after a long pause. He's out. The room emptied slowly. The CEO gathered his things in silence. No one helped him. And just like that, he was gone. They asked me to step in as interim CEO. I declined. Put Morgan in, I said. She knows the ground better than anyone. That shocked them. Even Morgan. Later, when she asked me why, I told her the truth. Because I'm tired. And because I can't keep doing this to myself. She nodded, but I could see the doubt in her eyes. Truth was I'd won. Every person who mocked me, dismissed me, or tried to silence me had been removed, disgraced, or erased. But I'd lost things too. My marriage. My time with my girls. The respect of people who once admired me. And myself. The judge finally ruled on custody 3 weeks later. 50-50 split. Neutral ground exchanges. Therapy for the girls. Todd moved back into his condo, silent and bitter. He blamed me for everything: his father's collapse, his career, even the fact that his siblings wouldn't return his calls. Maybe he wasn't wrong. But he'd made his own choices too. Leonard, last I heard, he was living in a 1-bedroom apartment outside of Reno. He started a blog, mostly rants about how business used to be. No one reads it. His legacy? Gone. His family? Splintered. The Beringer name? Wiped from every building, plaque, and truck. I changed my last name back to my maiden one. Quietly. No announcements. Now when people ask how I did it, how I pulled the strings, made the moves, took the whole damn empire down, I just say this. He told me to stay in my lane. So I built the road beneath his feet. And when the time was right, I took it away.